Hello, my name is Tosca Bruno van Vijwijken and I direct the Transnational NGO Leadership Institute, which is part of the TNGO initiative here at the Maxwell School. The Leadership Institute is a leadership preparation program particularly for people who currently work at the second tier of responsibility and who wish to prepare themselves for the transition, the leap as we call it, to top leadership. And today I'm undertaking a brief interview with Stirling. He is the Executive Vice President and Chief Administrative Officer at ChildFund International, and he's a participant in our institute. Thanks, Steve, for giving us some of your time and insights. So my first question is, I probably should ask you, what is the nature and mission of ChildFund?
ChildFund, our mission is to focus on deprived, excluded, and vulnerable children. So that we can enable them to really realize their dream and reach their full potential. We focus on 3 phases of the child's life, 0 to 5 infant, a young child from roughly 6 to 14, and the youth from 14 on. And we also work with communities so that once we leave, the community is there. So we believe that is really much more sustainable, so we can make an impact for the long term. And
you're a U.S. NGO, right? Based in, where's your headquarters?
I am part of the ChildFund International USA, yes, in Richmond, Virginia. But we're part of a global alliance that we have 11 other member countries that makes up the alliance.
Okay, I see. And just to get a sense of the size of your organization,
ChildFund, the alliance is roughly $650 million US, and the US part of that is roughly $250 million.
Okay, all right. So tell us a little bit how you personally got involved in transnational activism, in service delivery, and also how did your leadership evolve over time?
Okay, let me get the first part here.
Right.
I was for 19 years in corporate America, really pursuing my career, climb up the corporate ladder, working for Fortune 500 companies. And then in about, that was about 11 years ago, I was on a board called the Holt International Children's Services, where that was where I was adopted from. I was not born in this country. I was born in Korea, and I lived in an orphanage for about 5 years. And I was adopted. And when I went back, I actually met some of my childhood friends. And what really got me was, what am I really doing with my life? And I was very fortunate to be come to the United States, being adopted, and having really access to the top institutions, including Cornell and Northwestern. And I was really pursuing my own, pretty much myself interests. And when I went back, and I realized really I have an obligation from a positive standpoint to impact other children's life as well. And so I really went from what I call, what we term success in the worldly terms, to more of a significance. And therefore I really pursued going into that area and started with World Vision as my first nonprofit.
I see. What did you do in World Vision?
I was the Vice President of Marketing Operations. So my job was to really integrate a number of functions to make it much more smoother to achieve their mission.
And 2 follow-up questions. What was your specialization when you worked in the private sector? And secondly, how easy or not was the transition from working in a private sector culture environment to that of a nonprofit?
Okay. My specialty was in consumer package marketing, building brands. I worked on brands like Tylenol, Advil, and then moved to other nutritional products. So it was really about consumer packaged goods marketing, and how do you really get to differentiate your product so the people would, you can build a strong brand and revenue and a franchise.
Okay.
And so that's my background. I actually wanted to get to the leadership style question earlier.
Okay.
Was really about understanding the mission and objective of the organization, be it for profit or nonprofit, and then really putting together the people and the plan and the resources to accomplish that mission and goal. And my style is really about enabling others to get to the goal, because you cannot do it yourself. There's no way. So you really have to enable others to work together as a team to achieve that objective.
Interesting. Tell us a little bit, as you know, this program is for those people who are considering what the next step in their leadership career could be, whether it's in the short term or more in the medium to longer term. How do you visualize that next leadership leap that we talk about in the program? How do you see it for yourself developing, and what are your interests?
Okay. This program has been very helpful in that it kind of makes you stop and think about your own leadership approach and where you want to go. We're always constantly growing as an individual, and especially my new role now as a chief administrative officer, really my responsibility across pretty much the headquarter function, including finance, IT, HR and whatnot, fundraising also. So how do we get to it's really a new profession, if you will, going from a very functional, being a vice president of EVP of fundraising in the previous jobs to now it really about somebody who's trying to integrate across the whole organization. So, and then this course is really being very helpful to how do you get to the next level, and how do you then also work really about enabling others, because you really are more of a coach than trying to drive your own area.
I see. Maybe you've indirectly already started answering my next question. To your mind, before you came to the program, what did you think was the difference between what a top leader needs to do and be, and what somebody who at your level, at the second tier, just underneath top leader, needs to do and be?
I think the top level has to really articulate a bold vision for the organization, because that will really attract the right kind of people with the same objectives, and then to provide the playing field, if you will, to get that done. So it's a much bigger, more of a longer term type of a view, whereas previously it's really about achieving that particular functional area's goal. So it's about a whole picture of the organization versus a functional area within an organization.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point of view. What do you generally, you probably have already answered this question too, actually. I was going to ask you, what did you hope to gain coming in? You've mentioned some of the things that you found most distinct in terms of benefits. Any other expectation that you'd like to talk about?
It was actually my first nonprofit leadership conference. Attended for-profit organization before. So I think in addition to the tools, what was really helpful was to have that dialogue between some of the CEOs, actual CEOs nonprofit, and then having that dialogue, and also the context of hearing from other colleagues in different size organizations throughout the world that really provides some of the textual understanding and the differences, because we are a multinational, transnational NGO. So having that different perspective from the participants, as well as the professors that led it, as well as the CEOs who actually have lived in that area.
That experience.
Very helpful.
Yes. What is, in terms of ChildFund, what are some of its issues or challenges at the moment regarding leadership succession and transition? You can talk about the global network, or you can talk about the USA.
The board realized 5 years ago that they needed a different type of a leader. And we have a terrific leader right now. Her name is Ann Goddard. And so she's trying to really provide change for the next level of growth. And that, right now, if you look at ChildFund, we were predominantly a one product, one channel organization. And
when you say one channel organization, what do you mean?
A channel of acquisition, so it was primarily television as a way of acquiring new sponsors.
Okay.
And so the objective is, how do we build a foundation and platform to really diversify our donor base and also our channel of acquisition? Where do we acquire our new sponsors, but also different types of donors as well. So that is a challenge, and the new structure that the board and the president is putting together will allow us to do that. And so it's taking us to the next level and preparing us to really grow in size so that we can help more children and families.
And that also means that with that change, you also need to groom leaders who can actually steer that change and make it succeed.
Yes, yes, and I think she's also building based on the type of leaders that we need and different skill sets, so building that team to make that happen. And it's really about working at the executive level as a team, because we don't have all the answers. So how do we engage the appropriate people at the right level to help us get us there?
I see. Last question then is, could you just tell us anecdotally one or two insights, lessons you've learned surprises you've experienced in attending this leadership program about what it takes to move to the next level of leadership?
I think the one thing was the flexibility and context, because things are happening so quickly in this world that you have to be able to read the signs and then also be able to make the right adaptation to leverage that situation. And I think it happened today at the leadership, where a case study was with the input from the colleagues said, hey, let's try it a little differently, and it was great to see how we adapted it for the context, and then we had a very productive day. So that was a good example.
So constantly being able to adapt to rapidly shifting factors in our environment, if you will, is an important aspect of leadership that you hadn't necessarily thought about so much before you came. Is that one aspect?
I think just the seminar itself was that I thought it was going to be more set in the content. And so I think that was interesting to see how the professor was able to then really put it into to meet the needs of the students here,
which is
the attendees, and which is, again, really mirrors what's happening in the business, in the world that we live in. That we have to be able to read the internal, external signs, and then how do we then leverage that? Because the days of planning something and then leaving by it, while you still have to have a plan, you have to be flexible. And you have to, above all, be client-oriented. So, well, thank you so much for your insights today. Thank you. You're welcome. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.